everyone, and welcome once again to Geeks Not Nerds, the podcast. I'm Captain Logan.
And I am Vince.
Vince, today we're going to do something that is in no way whatsoever meant to be taken seriously.
Oh. You mean we're not trying to write the world's next best novel?
No, we're not.
That'd be a boring reality show. World's next best novel.
Actually, that's really funny. Yeah, and you just have all these people who have to live in the same house together for a while, and they're just all sitting at desks writing, and then they have to find a way to try to make it look really dramatic. So like I just hate it when that guy writes. It's like nails on a chalkboard. I'm gonna steal his chocolate.
Ted, could you stop using the nails and the chalkboard to write your novel? But it's my muse.
It's how I get my inspiration. So today, Vince and I are going to do something that's kind of a follow-up to something we did a few months ago, where we talked about a superhero film that we might write called Equilibrium and the Hater. Vince,
I really think we should go back and think about that as an actual movie.
Yeah. I thought there were some pretty cool ideas in that.
In fact, if you guys remember it, leave some comments. Leave some comments in this video, that video. Let us know if you think it's worth it.
Vince and I were talking about earlier today about the fact that there are so many superheroes and villains that we just keep reusing, and we're not really coming up with a lot of new ones, and we thought it'd be fun to just sit here and try to come up with a few skeletons for superheroes and villains ourselves. So this won't be like Equilibrium and the Hater, where we'll be like trying to come up with the blueprint for a story or anything, but we'll just come up with a few ideas. Some of them I think are probably just going to be totally out there and crazy, and but we're kind of doing this on the spot. We just felt kind of creative, and we thought we'd share. We thought we would record this. Sometimes Vince and I do things like this, and sometimes we record them.
Sometimes we record a lot of things that come out weekly.
yeah, that too. So anyway, this is liable to be like really incoherent and silly and strange, but hopefully you enjoy it anyway. So let's see where it goes. So anyway, Vince,
yes.
Let's do villains first.
Yeah.
We'll do 10 or 15 minutes on villains and 10 or 15 minutes on superheroes. We'll see if we can come up with a few fun ideas. And once again, we just feel like there's not enough new stuff. So let's all be creative and try to think of some neat things. It just seems like Marvel and DC both, not to mention any other companies, I think really need to start trying to add some new blood. Everybody's so worried. I mean, we're in a bad economy, and it's difficult to sell comics, but it always has been difficult to sell comics. And at least in the last several decades. And it just seems like all we're doing is trying to make comics that everybody's heard of before, and just keep remilking the same ideas constantly.
I mean, it's a safe bet, is what they're trying to do. Is like everybody likes Batman, everybody likes X-Men and Wolverine. We'll just sell that to them.
And in the 90s, there were a lot of new characters coming out. Some people liked and some people didn't. And what the companies seem to be doing right now is trying to bring back the 90s. But the real way to bring back the 90s? Make up some new stuff. Right?
Write good things. That sounds good.
Or even just write some new things. You know what I mean? We were taking chances in the 90s.
Yeah. I mean, they took some strange chances. I remember Nomad. That was kind of a strange guy. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's around anymore. I don't think anybody wants him around. Just a guy with long hair and a gun and a baby strapped to his chest.
I'm not saying that the 90s weren't crazy, that there wasn't just some nutso stuff that came out, but the point is that people were trying things. People were taking chances.
Yeah.
And I wish more of that was happening right now. We keep retreading stuff. There's doomsday stuff going on right now in DC at the same time as there's apocalypse stuff going on at Marvel, and I think that's just prime example of this. And it's happening with video games, it's happening with movies, and it's happening with television. When was the last time you saw a new cartoon show that wasn't based on on a cartoon show that's happened before? It's
I've been watching a show that's entirely original. Doctor Who, entirely original. It's not based on any prior information whatsoever.
Yeah.
You can't argue with me.
So Vince, give me a supervillain.
All right. A guy who has... let's start with a motivation. What do you say?
Okay, go ahead.
Let's start with something silly.
Okay.
Here's a guy who wants, this is what he desires, to destroy everybody's left sock. But he wants to do it. He wants to do it while they're wearing socks and shoes.
What? Why? What makes him want to do that?
Well, he had a traumatic experience with a washing machine, and the only thing that they were washing was left socks because his mother was obsessive compulsive and washed separate loads of laundry. She would wash the left socks and then the right socks so she would know what gets paired with what.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
That's brilliant, Vince.
I know. I am a genius of character motivations.
I got one for you.
Sure.
Cyanide.
Cyanide and Nara.
Yes. He kills people with cyanide and then he politely walks away.
That just sounds like a guy that would deliver horrible Arnold Schwarzenegger one-liners. Cyanide Onara.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And nobody would ever want to write him because they wouldn't want to have to put that in a word bubble.
A good idea for a supervillain.
Yep.
Cardinal Sin.
That's actually a good sounding name, yeah.
You see, I was sitting there at my girlfriend's place, and she had a friend who said, I can't think of a Halloween costume. Of course, this was several months ago now. Mm-hmm. But I said, she said, I'm trying to generate ideas. I said, you could be Cardinal Sin. And she says, what do you mean? I said, you could dress like a religious cardinal, but you could dress entirely in red, carry a big, scary black staff, and have all the sins written on it.
That sounds like a Batman villain.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Cardinal Sin.
That's a good idea, actually.
Coined right here. Vince of Geekvolution.
I really like that.
Yeah. And then he has, powers of gluttony and sloth, and he can make people move ridiculously slow, and he can make them eat themselves to death instantly. Your hand is now the most delicious thing ever. Om nom nom.
That's frightening.
Yes. In fact, maybe I should actually use this character.
Yeah, that actually sounds like a really good idea.
Stay tuned, guys. Cardinal Sin will be appearing in an idea of Vince Haskins.
I really like that. How about faux pas?
Faux pas.
Yeah. He just he shows up and just tells you exactly what's wrong with you. that's his whole motivation. He's one of those villains that I don't know. I guess
Captain Criticism.
Captain Criticism. Yeah. Well, actually, the more I'm thinking about it, the more he just sounds kind of like Demogoblin. Because he just shows up and every little thing anybody does is immediately a sin and a crime, and he has to wipe them clean by killing them.
They had a fake superhero on South Park, and they called him Captain Hindsight. And every time some big crisis would happen, he'd show up and tell everybody what should have happened in order to prevent this. And that's we need Captain Hindsight, and Captain Hindsight would swoop in and tell them there should have been an extra hole on that ship and things like that. It was funny to me. It was really strange.
You could have a guy who's trying to get revenge on the technology industry for changing too fast. I don't know what his name would be, but he's angry about internet time. He's mad because you have to buy a new computer every few months because they go obsolete or whatever, and cell phones and things like that. And so he's preaching about the good old days when we didn't require new technology every few months. And
that's a cool idea, actually. I like that. When you first started, I thought you were going to say something kind of silly, but I had an idea not entirely unsimilar to that a number of years ago.
Oh yeah,
about an eco-terrorist group that thought technology was ruining the earth. Mm-hmm. So maybe I shouldn't be sharing ideas that I intend to use at some point.
Yeah, well, there's that, but I think this guy though wouldn't be wouldn't be an eco-terrorist so much as just he's angry because people have to waste money.
Yeah.
He's mad about it. And that might be a really timely villain because of, our economic woes and things where he's mad at industry for making people waste money that they wouldn't have to waste. And
that sounds more like a Zorro-esque character.
Oh, yeah?
Kind of a Robin Hood type of guy.
Well, yeah, except that if I were writing him, I would write him to where he was in the wrong. I think, I would make him a villain, and then the heroes. And this is just me because of my perspectives on things. But I think that it would be one of those things where both sides had a point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where he has a point, but then the hero's point is, well, no one is actually forcing anyone to do anything.
Mm-hmm. There's a fine line between a radical and a terrorist.
Yeah.
So that is something that's interesting. I was just listening to an episode of The Shadow where this guy was killing crowds because the city was too crowded. He doesn't like crowds. They make him nervous. He thinks they judge him, so he kills them. He would put bombs in public locations. And I thought that was really interesting. I recommend listening to some of the radio or shadow radio shows if you guys ever get the chance. A man with sonic powers. A man who could blast your eardrums out with his horrible singing. The karaokester.
Ooh. Oh, we got to come up with a better name than that.
That's right. We can call him the vocalist.
Or we can call him Captain Karaoke, and both could be K's.
Captain Carvel Karaoke.
A very Silver Age type villain. He just walks around with a he walks around with a microphone and like a big speaker strapped to his back.
You know, when you add like two K's together, I immediately clench up because I expect a third K to be coming. I'm like, oh no, evil.
I don't think anybody thinks that with other evil sounding things like you put two sixes together, what's gonna happen?
I don't know. I mean, if a guy went around calling himself 6'6", I'd be like, whoa, there's a third one coming.
Really? So you think Route 66 was evil?
Oh yeah, there are stories about Route 66 being evil.
Oh really?
In fact, there is a comic book called Route 666.
Oh, okay. I was making fun of you, but I guess I won't now.
Yeah, I'm not the only dude.
Here's one. How about Bombshell? There's a really cute girl who blows stuff up.
She exists.
What?
She's an X-Men, I think.
There is a Bombshell?
Or maybe she's Boom Boom. Maybe I'm thinking...
I don't know, man. I've never heard of that.
I think Bombshell is an actual character.
I felt really proud of myself for that.
And if not, coin that.
Yeah, it sounded good. Okay, well, that may be an obscure character of the week later on.
Mr. Monkey.
Mr. Monkey. Because there aren't enough monkey supervillains.
Well, there is one in Kim Possible.
No, there's tons of monkey supervillains.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
There's
Mojo Jojo?
And there's the who's the really intelligent ape in Superman?
Oh,
Gorilla Grodd.
Gorilla Grodd.
Yeah, I guess he's a gorilla.
Then there's Monkey Man, who's a superhero.
Yeah, there's plenty of monkeys, Vince.
Well, Mr.
I was
Monkey,
being sarcastic.
Mr. Monkey is just a really ugly dude who wishes he had monkey powers.
That's actually really funny, because it would make fun of the whole trend of monkey characters. In fact, now that I think about it, back in the late 90s, I think Cartoon Network was obsessed with monkey characters and superhero stuff, because, they had Mojo Jojo, and then in Dexter they had Dial M for Monkey.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
That was always really fun.
I like the Dial M for Monkey stuff. One person told me that I should really read Hit Monkey. Came out
really
a one shot that came out from Marvel.
Yeah, I saw that, but I never read it.
They said it would be. They said they told me they thought it was really funny, or they thought it should be really funny because I don't think they'd read it. They're like, "Oh, you should totally buy that. That's going to be good." And I didn't do it because it's a monkey.
You just don't like monkeys?
Well, I do like monkeys. In fact, Romero, my favorite zombie movie maker, he made a movie called Monkey Shines, which was about a trained monkey.
You told me about that.
It's a pretty funny movie, actually. I kind of enjoyed it. But every time I would sit down to watch Monkey Shines with one of my friends, they'd say, "What movie do you want to watch?" I'm like, "Monkey Shines, so we can get out of the way." And every time I'd suggest it, he'd say, "Do we really want to watch a movie about a monkey?" I like that. Really? About a monkey? It's a monkey.
Okay, so Vince, I figured out what the motif should be of the technology guy. Mm-hmm. The guy who's obsessed with taking out the technology industry. He should be called VCR.
VCR?
Yes.
I like that. Oh man, villainous crime recidivist.
Yes. Yeah.
Because he's a repeat offender.
Yeah, and you can actually
but you have to
his
rewind. Yeah. Oh man.
But if you don't want him to wear out, you want to get like a separate rewinder. You want to defeat. Oh man, Vince, you and I have been doing this way too long.
That's
we know each other way too well. That kind of stuff starts happening. Before we started recording, we were trying to decide what rants we were going to do today, and we both simultaneously wrote down the exact same thing and decided to scrap it.
Yeah, we're going to do that for GNN next time.
Anyway,
so we should do a supervillain called Mr. Fister.
That sounds ridiculous.
It is.
What does Mr. Fister do?
He is a little skinny guy who has a giant fist.
Yeah.
Imagine Woody Allen if he was about a foot shorter and about 20 pounds lighter. and he has a giant fist, and he can crush coal into diamonds with this fist.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes, that's a good idea. I might use that one too.
There's so many supervillains that have disproportionate body parts.
You know what we should do?
What's that?
We should do this all the time.
What, just sit around coming up with characters?
Yeah, and just use these things.
Yeah, we totally should. I don't know why we're doing this now and recording this so other people can just steal our ideas and run with them. But...
Please don't, by the way.
Yeah, we're sharing, but not in the way of giving away.
Sharing in the idea of letting you hear our ideas.
I got one. How about Whoa There? He's a little horse that rides a person.
I like that. That's pretty funny. He's a very large person.
He's a little horse, but he rides a person.
Oh, man.
Well, should we go to superheroes?
Sure, let's go to superheroes. Whoa there.
Well, Whoa There.
His nefarious plans are to enslave the human race and make horses the master race.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yes.
According to him, horses are the master race. And he's got a little mustache, too.
Mechanical Mike.
That's awesome. It just sounds good.
He's an android.
Of course he is.
Who,
I'm sorry, I was envisioning an auto mechanic, but go ahead.
He runs around with a giant ratchet, and he's in the future, and he's outdated technology. And
back to the technology bed.
Yes, he is in the future. He's outdated technology, and he's trying to make his way in the world the best way that he can. Oh yes, Mechanical Mike, you live a sad existence.
You know how we've got superheroes that are named after like whatever they happen to be wearing, like steel. We should have another one like that called linoleum.
Linoleum. I like that one.
Made out of linoleum.
Freak accident in his kitchen when he happened to be working with radioactive chemicals
in his kitchen, and he started rolling around, but the floor came up and just went up on top of him, and now he's linoleum.
Linoleum, what were you trying to make? Well, I was trying to make the world's most shiny pasta salad.
I can't imagine what his battle cry would be, right? Like he just whatever he would say would never sound good. You know, he'd show up to fight villains, and he'd be like, "Stop, villain! For you face linoleum."
Linoleum.
Oh, I also happen to be standing on linoleum at this very moment.
You cannot defeat me when I'm in my element.
That's awesome.
Pressure cooker. A chef who was standing near linoleum at the moment.
Of course, now we're developing a continuity.
That's right. Pressure cooker. He has the ability to pressure you into cooking things.
Well, that's lame.
That is lame. But the idea of a guy named Pressure Cooker, that's not bad. That's actually kind of a villainous sounding name.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool if you had a villain called Pressure Cooker who, actually just pretty much did what pressure cookers do, only more evil.
Yeah. Only to, like, people and stuff. See, that'd be evil. He does it to small dogs, but only small dogs, because the large one will not fit in his pot. That sounded really funky.
Yeah, really, is he just going around with a big pot on his head?
He's like, "Come here, small dog." He tries to do it to a Rottweiler, but he gets angry and mauls him. I'm getting grim.
No, that's okay. I'm used to it.
The Grim Sleeper.
That's funny.
He's a guy that defeats his criminals by putting them to bed. I like that idea. It's funny to me. Harbinger has a cousin. His name's the Binger.
Yeah, except that they're also not related in any way whatsoever, because his whole power just he's an alcoholic. That's all he does.
How did he get his powers? Well, he hung out with Tony Stark one weekend and never recovered. Oh, man.
I'm finding heroes to be kind of harder than villains, really.
Yeah, villains are just like, how do we kill people? And then you go from there.
Heroes is like, we need something heroic.
Villain or heroes, you're like, I need something clever. I mean, you can come up with a villain a week. Trapper Keeper.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great, Vance. Except, of course, can't really use it.
That's true. Trapper Keeper TM. Anyway.
You have Loan Shark. but he has an Indian sidekick.
Captain India, as they call him.
No. You know, like the Lone Ranger.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious.
I was just reading some Lone Ranger comics earlier today.
Yeah, see, that makes me cooler than you. Not because I said that joke and you didn't get it, but because I was not reading Lone Ranger comics.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. I didn't like the Lone Ranger.
Oh, Dynamite Lone Ranger is fantastic.
Is it dynamite?
Yes. It is. It really is dynamite.
Is it?
Yeah, I lit it and it blew up.
Wow.
Yeah. All over the comic book industry. In fact, I didn't light it. The writer and the publishers lit it. Moving on from that analogy.
I don't know, I think there's a whole lot of themes that characters could have that they've never had because it's just really lame. You know, like the truck.
The truck.
They
do have that one. They call him Optimus Prime.
Well, no. Yes, I know, but I'm just saying that like a superhero with a car motif, it just sounds bad.
Oh. Well,
I'm the truck.
Well, it rhymes with certain other words. It would be too obvious to make fun of him with.
Well, there's that too, but I mean, like, I just don't think, you know...
Chuck? I mean, come on.
Doesn't sound
Everybody know his secret identity.
Yeah. Chuck the truck.
You know, actually, I wouldn't mind seeing a super... Or not necessarily a superhero, but a protagonist, at least, and call him the trucker. Just...
Yeah, it's not bad.
Because, you know, it's that life on the road... That type of thing. He's moving from place to place, and he's fixing problems for people. And he has a huge rig that he helps, that he uses. You know, how often do you need to pull something apart? They even did that in Doctor Who at one point. They said we need a bigger transportation to help rip something away from something else.
What's cool about Doctor Who is that they'll bring in things that anybody else would write, and it would just seem really hokey and dumb. Yeah. And then they'll just make it awesome.
Well, that's because it takes everything with a wink and a smile. It makes bull science believable.
Yeah, exactly. You know, comics can do this too, though, right? Where, like, you can have a motif that's totally... that looks totally silly, but then because of the tone the book has, you can make it work. And I think that's been done with some of our best superheroes. But, I mean, like, what if we had a character who was called something like the Cellist? Like, that immediately sounds really dumb. Like he has a musician motif. But, like, if you're running around with a bow for a cello, that could be quite the weapon.
Yeah. I mean, especially if he's like a fencer, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Something like that. Like on paper it looks dumb.
Because you don't necessarily need a sword to whoop up on people. I mean, they're... Like the idea of Rurouni Kenshin, you know, it'd be kind of like say maybe a European version of that.
Oh yeah,
because Rurouni Kenshin, I cannot say that word. That guy uses the backside of I think he just uses the backside of his actual sword. I think that's what it is, so that he doesn't actually cut anybody because that's a flat side.
Well, what works potentially about something like that is that the person is using just things they happen to have lying around, and then you give them some kind of compelling backstory, you know what I mean, and then it's like, oh, you know, you're really what's the word I'm looking for?
Resourceful?
You're really resourceful, yeah, and that's an endearing quality for a character, you know. So if you can actually take something like, it's kind of like somebody like Green Arrow, you know what I mean? Where, like, you know, I've got these arrows, but they do a lot of things other than just I shoot them at people.
Mm-hmm. You know, there's a comic book out there called Gearhead, which I've mentioned on the podcast before.
You have.
This girl who her father did it before her, and what she uses as a weapon is just this huge wrench because she's a mechanic. So she goes out there and fights crime with a huge wrench and a mask that's one of those things that you use for like a blowtorch. What would you call one of those masks? Well, protective facial gear anyway.
Sure.
But I think that's interesting. I think it's worthwhile to have a character using what they learned, what they grew up doing. So you don't you don't always need Superman. You don't always need Wonder Woman. Sometimes you just need a person with a little bit of know-how and the willingness to use it.
Yeah, the thing about a motif is that a character doesn't have to constantly be making, like, puns and cracks based on what their motif is.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Spider-Man, like, you know, he has spider powers, but he doesn't go around talking about the fact that he's an insect. And then, I mean, that he's got powers of an insect and that kind of thing. Other villains will sometimes bring it up, but I mean, like, he's not like, Mr. Freeze and Batman and Robin or anything like that, where because you have this motif, you have to constantly talk about it. If you had somebody like, say, the cellist, like we might not even make a lot of references to music all the time, unless that was just like their day job or something.
Well, that sounds great. I'd watch that movie. I'd read that comic.
I think it would work, actually, the more I'm thinking about it.
The cellist, I mean, yeah. I mean, you got a guy...
Or some other, instrument.
By calling him the cellist, I like that, cello, because it implies strength and the ability to wield an unwieldy object.
Yeah,
and yet he has
cellos are large.
Yeah, and yet he has the finesse to use the
bow.
The bow, yeah. I wanted to call it stick, but that's not what it's called.
Yeah.
I mean, because calling the guy the drummer is kind of strange.
Yeah.
The cellist. It just sounds good.
Yeah.
You should use that, the cellist.
I'm actually surprised we came up with a couple.
Yeah.
Actually worthwhile sounding concepts here. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm. The trucker, the cellist. Here we go.
Yeah, but I mean, like, some of the villains we came up with before were really cool.
Yeah, it had never occurred to me to use Cardinal Sin as anything other than a Halloween costume.
It sounds really good. I like that. We could have Cardinal Sin and the cellist. They could be in the same book together.
Cardinal Sin and the cellist.
Well, let's go ahead and go straight to rants, Vince.
All right.
Why don't you start?
I think I will, because I got
Okay.
I got my post-it note here nice and ready
Okay,
with my rant written out on.
Go ahead.
I hate the idea that anybody thinks they can cure zombieism with something other than magic. I mean, with magic, anything's possible, and it's the ultimate, we're just going to, basically say it's all a dream. We're just going to fix it. We're just going to put a nice little bop on top of it, and it's all figured out because I have this magic wand. However, I was reading, what do you call it? I was reading Infestation, Star Trek Infestation, and they think they can solve zombies with science. They get rid of, and at the end of this story, they cure the thing that makes them zombies, so it brings them back to a human state. And they say that it doesn't actually heal any of the injuries that they would have sustained while they were zombies, and it doesn't heal any of the physical damage.
It keeps them in exactly the same state, but they have their mental, they have their wits back about them.
Yeah, and these people on this planet have been zombies for a while now. So therefore, there's rot to consider. These people would be dead. You solve the virus, you kill the person.
Yeah.
It bothers me that anybody thinks you can... Removing the virus would not heal the person and bring them back to life. It would kill them. It bothers me that they put that in stories.
Well, at first I was going to say that it kind of depends on, what causes the zombieism, but I guess it really doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, anything that would cause the zombie to rot. I mean, if the idea is that the person's just being controlled and there's no real physical damage other than the damage that would be sustained while you're, we'll call it irrational, while you're what would be thought of as a zombie, then fine, whatever. I mean, if it's the 28 days later type of thing, if you've managed to maintain health,
sort of rotting too, though, I thought, but.
Well, I mean, I think they did a lot of physical damage to themselves when they were just attacking other people. Mm-hmm. Because, the human body can only take so much. But, yeah. Bottom line, it bothers me. Why do people think that? They're dead.
Have you seen that in much else other than that comic?
I've seen just strange things happen where people think that they can use bull science to solve problems. Like, I have science, and we can do whatever we want because I'm writing stuff.
Yeah, well, it's happened several times in Trek episodes actually, where you'll have a character who, especially there's a couple of Voyager episodes in particular where you'll have a character who's transformed into an entire other creature, and at the end they're able to transform them totally back to human with no explanation as to how it worked, and that's no good.
A common theme that does actually come up is when people are like, I can't kill them, they're people. No, it doesn't have a jaw. It's missing part of its torso. It's dead.
Yeah, it was dead before it started.
I understand if you would say they were people, mm-hmm. But obviously this is not a rational thinking human being, or even an irrational thinking human being.
Right.
It's not a person. It's just a force of nature at that point, and I don't see why people would would freak out about that. Well, I mean, I understand why they'd freak out. I'm not so shallow as to not understand subtleties within humanity and
and surely the thing comes up too sometimes, right, where people don't want to destroy the bodies if they don't have to because they want to be able to bury them. And
I mean, it makes sense if you think if you can cure the virus, quit the or get them back to death state.
Yeah. They want to respect these people because they died horrendous deaths, and now they're just having to kill them.
And maybe they're still having some sort of fallout from
their bodies.
Maybe they're still having some sort of fallout from living in a regular society and not having to use a gun or a weapon regularly, and therefore they don't want to actually have to physically harm something, even if it's a dangerous creature.
Sometimes we conveniently forget that part of it because we've seen so many zombie movies and so many just action and horror movies where we forget that real people don't spend their whole lives shooting things and stabbing things and that kind of thing. Like, it would be traumatic for people. There's I know I keep bringing up Star Trek, but hey, you're doing zombie Star Trek, so I'll do another Star Trek thing where there's a DS9 episode where and it's like in the beginning of like season 6. So, I mean, it's well into DS9 where Quark is forced to gun down 2 Jem'Hadar, and he kills them, and he's killed them so that he can rescue Ram and Lita from a jail cell, and then he just stands there and can't do anything because he's never killed anyone before. So he's just standing there, and he keeps the weapons aimed, and Ram and Lita have to drag him out of the room because he can't think after he's done that.
That's one of my favorite topics
cool.
in things like gangster movies when they have, or even Unforgiven. If you've never seen Unforgiven, give it a watch. It's totally worthwhile. It's a revisionist Western flick, and like the idea, the first kill is the hardest, and once you're gone from there, it's like water on the bridge. It just keeps flowing.
Mm-hmm. Well, Vince, I'll do my rant real fast.
Go for it.
I guess that could have been a whole show.
We may just do a show on bull science or the how hard it is to kill people.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun to do on bull science just because that would look really good in the title.
I do. I like that.
I just briefly wanted to talk about something that I should have talked about months ago when my son was littler, because this is something that annoyed my wife and I for a while. So I'll just share this. Jason is getting close to being 1 now, so this isn't as much of a problem now that you. It's not a problem. It would be really dumb for me to call this a problem. They don't make a lot of licensed clothes for newborns and infants. It's really strange to me because people would buy them. You're going to be hard pressed to find much in Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, X-Men, that kind of stuff in little onesies for babies. I don't understand this. It seems like that would be an obvious cash cow. Why are they not around?
Can you buy blank onesies?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can make it yourself, but that's not the point. It just seems to be like, and I'm not even saying that they necessarily need to be around, but I just think it's strange that these companies aren't making that stuff. And it's not that none of that happens, but you don't see it like at retail stores. We had we still have a onesie that somebody gave us in Star Trek Club that they got off of ThinkGeek. That's like a Star Trek uniform onesie. It's a TOS red shirt. It's really cute. But you can go to ThinkGeek and you can buy stuff like that. But I mean, that's like a specialty place.
Yeah.
But I'm just surprised that you can't just walk into a Target and find that stuff. It's like it's past like 18 months that you start really seeing a lot of that kinds of stuff, and that's when they make and then they make like the T-shirts with the capes attached and the fun silly stuff like that. But I'm not saying it's really that problem or anything, but
No, that is true.
But I was just surprised by it. It seemed to me like you would be inundated with it, and we're not.
Yeah, you'd think you'd see some more childish type of things on there. I remember being on houseofblues.com at one point when I was younger, and found some Blues Brothers baby stuff.
Really?
Yeah, like newborn baby stuff. And I thought, that's absurd. What do babies know about the Blues Brothers? And they're like, wait, it's not like they really know anything at that point.
Yeah.
So it'd be totally for the parents.
Yeah, exactly. You sell the stuff to the parents so that their friends can be like, oh, that's cute, he's wearing that.
Yeah. I mean, Sell a little onesie that looks like a suit.
Yeah, that would be really funny. I'm sure they make those somewhere, but...
Yeah, not everything has to have cute little bunnies on it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, thanks a lot for listening to Geeks Not Nerds, the podcast, and we'll have another podcast for you again next week, where we'll probably talk about something more coherent and less all over the place. But we hope you enjoyed this, and thanks a lot for listening. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince, thinking that Morco sounds like a good villain name.
Ooh, Morco. What would he be?
He would be a giant head.
Well, we've had
Big,
those.
big floating head. Love him.
Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time.